Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Progress with number 10 in the series Viewer Games. This one is from Jose from the United States of America, and it's a USA-Mexico clash because his opponent was Oscar from Mexico. And Jose tells me, I felt proud of this win over a player who had 500 ELO points more than me. I'm sure I didn't make the best moves, but I managed to get the upper hand by trying to make good use of the diagonals. Even though I lost my bishops once we traded queens on the 16th move, I felt I had a better position. Good game, he says. That is a good upbeat message from Jose. Let's look at his game. White, Jose. Black, Oscar. It was a correspondence game played on the chess.com server. It was one move per 5 days, so for every move, both players had 5 days to think about. A very generous time control. The game started on August 6, 2015 and finished 15 days later on August 21. So it is clear that both players moved a lot faster than they would have to. And we can see that at some of the moves. Okay, let's get into the game. D4 from Jose, knight f6 from his opponent, e3, g6. And now Jose played knight a3. Yes, it develops a piece, and I always talk about developing your pieces in this series, developing your pieces, occupying the center and keeping your king safe. That's what I always talk about. And yes, this develops a piece, but not really to a logical square. Knights really do not belong on the side of the board. More logical moves would have been bishop d3 or f4 or knight f3. But okay, knight a3, even though it's not the most logical move, at least it develops a piece. Bishop g7 from Oscar, bishop c4, black castled, knight f3, good move, d6, and now Jose played d5. And again, this move was not really necessary. I would say try and finish your development first, castle your king, and then look for this type of pawn push. But no harm done. Knight bd7, knight g5, and again, Jose, why do you play that knight again? Why do you not finish your development first? And to show you how black could have made use of white not completing his development, he could have played c6 here. And I just want to show you one variation because it gets quite complicated. But if you take that pawn, then there's queen a5 check. And if you then play queen d2, shielding the check, you lose your knight on g5. And of course white can take the piece back on d7. But then you have an in-between move, queen takes g2. And black is better. This is just one variation to illustrate that playing with the same piece twice in the opening, like white did with his d-pawn and with his knight, is generally not a good idea. You could get into trouble for the simple reason that you have not finished your development, you have not put your king safe yet, and then there are all sorts of extra possibilities for your opponent. Instead of c6, which would have been a very good move, black played e6, and that is a bad move. Simply not counting properly. That pawn is attacked twice and only defended once. So Jose rightly took that pawn. Oscar played knight e5, and here Jose decided to play queen e2. What he missed is that he can take on f7 with check. Let's have a look how that works out. E takes f7 check, and if you take it with the knight, then there is knight takes, and you have to give the rook, bishop takes, king takes f7, and white is an exchange up. You don't have to take the pawn back after e takes f7 check. You can play king h8, but then simply bishop b3, and white is better. As I said, Jose played queen e2 instead, and Oscar decided to take on c4, and again Jose has an in-between move. He takes f7 check before taking the knight back, but he took back straight away. He took back with the queen, while I think taking with the knight is more logical, bringing that knight that is offside back into the center of the board. But queen takes c4 was played by Jose. Now Oscar took back on e6, and here Jose played b4. And this is the first real criticism in this game. b4 is really a shot in the dark. That b-pawn is not threatening anything, is not doing much, and also tactically it is a very bad move because it opens up the diagonal of the bishop on g7. And this is a bad move from Jose. What he should have played is castling. Just put the king safe. That is a priority. After b4, black had a nice shot, knight d5. He didn't play it, but that's a very good move. It attacks two pieces. Now the rook on a1 is hanging and the knight on g5 is hanging. Instead, black played d5, attacking the queen. Queen went to b3, and here again black could have played knight g4, attacking both rook and knight. He didn't see the tactic and played b6 to develop his last piece. Bishop b2, which is the only advantage of that b2, b4 push, that now the b2 square is available for the bishop, and now that bishop of course has a nice diagonal. So bishop b2 is a good move. Queen d6 from Oscar, and here finally Jose decided to castle. He went queenside castling, which is probably better than kingside castling. Kingside castling looks a bit dangerous with all black's pieces looking at the king side, and on top of that white's pieces are cluttered on the queen side, so the king will be a bit lonely over there. So castling queenside is not such a bad move. Bishop b7, developing that last piece. In the last viewer's game, the question was asked to get some tips on mid-game, middle game play. And I think I said in that video, one of the things you want to do in a middle game is make sure all your pieces are doing something. All your pieces are having a purpose. In this case, white, Jose, could have improved his knight on a3, which is a very bad piece. It's not doing anything there. He could have played knight b5 with a tempo on the queen. Queen has to go to d7, for example, and then knight d4. And that knight has definitely improved from the bad square on a3 to a very strong square on d4. Jose did not play that. He played e4, which opens up the c1, h6 diagonal, and black could have played bishop h6 with a unpleasant pin of that knight to the king. Instead, Oscar played queen f4 check, check and attacking the knight. Looks like a queen fork, but white has a way to deal with that, and Jose found it. He played queen e3, shielding a check and protecting g5 at the same time. The queens were swapped, queen takes, f takes, and now it's black to play. And my question to you is, yes, the pawn on e6 is hanging, and you have to defend it with a rook. That's the most logical thing to do. So, would you play the f rook to e8 to protect the pawn, or would you play the a rook to e8 to defend the pawn? Well, I would play rook a e8. That rook on the in a corner is not doing anything, just standing there passively, so bringing that to the center of the board makes sense, protecting the e6 pawn. You don't want to touch the other rook, because rooks like open files, and that f-rook is positioned nicely on the open f-file. So rook ae8 is a very normal and logical move here. But Oscar played the f-rook, taking it away from a beautiful open file and putting it passively on e8, while the a8 rook is also still passive. Bad move. Jose understands that better. He plays rook hf1, putting the rook on an active square on an open file. With that move, Jose also brings a tactic in the position, but Oscar does not see it. He takes the pawn on e4 and completely overlooks that his knight on f6 is not sufficiently protected. It's attacked by the bishop on b2 and the rook on f1, and only protected by the bishop on g7. So Jose did not hesitate and took that knight. Bishop takes f6, and Oscar must have been so disgusted with himself that he didn't see that he resigned. It's a winning position, of course, for white. Let's have a quick look at a variation. Let's say you take back on f6 and then rook takes. White is a full piece up and the pawn on e6 is hanging, and you cannot even play bishop d5 because then there is c4 kicking the bishop. You can still play something like king g7 attacking the rook, rook f7 check, king g8, and now it's better not to take the bishop because then there might be h6 attacking the knight who is defending the rook. So the best thing is when you are material up is not to look for complications. Keep it as simple as possible. So in this case, instead of a messy position after taking the bishop and h6 kicking the knight, which is protecting the rook, you just take on h7 with the rook. Keep it simple, you're a full piece up, you don't want any complications. It's a very good move anyway, because if now black retreats with that attacked bishop, then suddenly the other rook, yes, rooks like open files, the other rook comes into the game, and after rook dd7 there are already mating patterns in the position. So just to show you this variation, of course white is a full piece up, but as I said, when you're material up, try to keep it as simple as possible. When you're down material, you want to look for complications, you want to make it complicated to see if you can save the game, but if you're up material, you want to keep it as simple and easy as possible. So good win from Jose, as he said, against an opponent who was 500 points higher rated. Well done, Jose. Jose, I hope I was not too harsh in my comments. Some of the moves I condemned quite strongly, but I guess if you asked for the game to be analyzed, it will be more helpful if I tell you what I think than tell you that every move is good. Of course, it's a great performance beating somebody with 500 rating points more, and you played a very good game. And I also think it was quite instructive, so hopefully other viewers will also have enjoyed it and have learned something from it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Progress channel, and I'm looking forward to seeing your comments. If you haven't done so yet, you may want to check out my Chess to Impress channel with over 150 videos. This is Rick from Chess to Progress. Thank you very much for watching.